Getting married or buying a home is a major turning point in one's life. It's supposed to be a joyous occasion and should change your life for the better. In my case, it was very different. I never dreamed something like that would happen to me. I'm Tracy, 35 years old. I started thinking about marrying my husband Steve about 2 years ago. We had been dating since high school. It was a tumultuous relationship of breaking up and getting back together. Before I knew it, I was already 33 years old. We had been together so long that we were like an old married couple. Although I didn't care much about marriage at that point, I felt dizzy to imagine starting a new relationship if we broke up. I was also afraid to miss the chance of getting married in the future. My parents were eager for me to marry Steve right away. I still contemplated and worried about losing my freedom though. I spanked Steve's butt and we finally got married the year before. We had already been living together, so the marriage didn't make a difference in our lifestyle. Only my parents seemed to be relieved that I got it done. They had been concerned and been asking me ever since my older sister got married. Are you on track? When will you get married? It seems that they were waiting for their grandchildren to come next. When I saw them talking excitedly about my marriage and grandchildren, I felt pleased to have made them happy. Steve, on the other hand, lost his father several years ago, so his mother, Penny, was his only family. She lived just a 5 minutes drive from our house, but I hardly ever saw her. The reason was simple. I didn't like her much. My parents were rather mild-mannered and soft-spoken. Penny was somewhat sarcastic and harsh. When I went to visit her in high school, she used to say things like, "You are here again?" Once I overheard her telling Steve, "You have bad taste in women." I was quite hurt back then, but it never occurred to me to break up with him just because his mother didn't like me. I used to be in my friendliest manner in front of her to be liked. When it was her birthday, I worked hard at my part-time job and bought gifts for her. Regardless, her attitude never changed toward me, so I eventually stopped trying so hard and started to avoid seeing her instead. One day, I received a rare phone call from her. I didn't even have her number saved in my phone, so I didn't know who it was at first. When I answered, I heard her voice. "Hey Tracy, I asked Steve for your number. I want to talk to you about something. Can you come over today?" Although I hadn't spoken to her for a long time, she sounded to be in a good mood. Since I had been avoiding her, I felt a little relieved that she might have been happy about our marriage. "Okay, I will come after I finish my work." I was a freelance web designer. I used to work for a company, but I became independent after I made good connections. Thankfully, my income was more than twice as much as when I was an employee. I worked from home and was able to adjust my hours to suit my needs. However, I had to do my chores as well. "Then can you come over in the evening?" Penny asked me. "I have to prepare dinner." I was about to refuse. "Steve will probably be working late tonight, so I think he will have dinner outside." I wondered how she knew about it. Was he in frequent contact with her that I just didn't know about? I was surprised. Well, she was his mother and lived alone, so he must have concern about her. I convinced myself with my thoughts. Okay, I will be there around 6 p.m. I promised and hung up the phone. Steve had been coming home late from work. I thought that he might have been visiting her. After all, it's only the two of them in the family, so they must have needed to help each other. I was thinking positively about it. In the end, it was only wishful thinking on my part. A few hours later. "Hi Penny, it's been a while. I greeted her by handing her a box of sweets I bought in the neighborhood. She smiled and tossed it aside without thanking me. Her gesture gave me a bad feeling. I followed her into the living room, feeling a little annoyed. As soon as we sat down on the sofa, "Hey, are you building a house?" she asked me. "Oh, you heard from Steve. I want a bigger workspace, and if we are going to move, we might as well build a house. Nothing concrete has been decided yet." I was a little surprised that she already knew, but Steve was chatty, so he must have mentioned it to her. What she told me next was quite shocking though. "Oh, good. Then it's not too late. Can you make a room for me too? I'm getting old, you know. I feel lonely living alone." That's a bit sudden. It was totally out of the blue. I couldn't immediately give her an answer. "Why not? You're making a lot of money, and Steve too is working. If you could build a 2-story house with separate entrance, we won't see each other much. But if something happened, it's easier to help each other out. If you have a baby, I can babysit. You can continue working as usual." She had the point. If we did have a child in the future, it would have been nice to have someone to help me out. Then I would talk it over with Steve. Oh, he always knows about it. About living together? I hadn't heard anything from him. He has already given his approval. Besides, he says your savings will be enough to cover it. What? No, he hasn't said anything to me. And why should we build a house with my saving? He has been working too. I couldn't help but raise my voice. I was flabbergasted by the unexpected turn of events and wondered how it came to be that way. Because he hasn't been able to hold down a job for very long and hasn't saved a lot of money. You can pay up first, and I will pay you later when this house sells. I've already gotten a quote from a real estate agent. She was calm, as if she had already made up her mind. You've already made arrangement to sell the house? Well, I understand what you've said so far. I will talk to Steve, so please wait. I'm leaving now. I left her house and groaned over the situation. Then I took out my phone to call Steve. There was a message from him saying, "I'm going out with my clients, so I don't need dinner." Penny was right. I thought she was closer than me to him. Penny just spoke to me about living together. I sent a reply, but it didn't get 2 ticks. In the end, he didn't return home until after midnight. I wanted to discuss the matter with him as soon as possible, but he was coming home late every day, and we couldn't find time to talk. I was freaking out that Penny was going to sell the house at any moment. I threatened him by saying that if he wasn't home on Sunday, we weren't going to build a new house. And the day came. Steve had been playing video games in his pajamas since morning. "Hey, what are we going to do about the house?" "Oh no, I'm already busted." He was so engrossed in the game that the conversation didn't go anywhere. "Hey, are you listening to me? I've been thinking about the mortgage. From the beginning again." I was getting irritated. I didn't want him to complain later that he wasn't aware of anything, so I recorded the audio while I explained about the mortgage. "So that's the type of mortgage we are going to get. Don't complain about it later, okay?" "What the hell is this stupid game? Let's play a different one." I was beginning to wonder if our marriage was a good idea. At that moment, Steve's cell phone got a notification ring. "I'm going to step out for a bit." He got dressed and went out. I didn't think anything of it other than he was so carefree, but I should have suspected him at that point. I contemplated the house a lot and agreed with what Penny said. I tried to think positively that living together would have been more comfortable than I expected. and we decided to build a 2-story house in the end. In any case, I was very happy to have a new home of my own. The exterior was completed, and then the interior was done. The dream home was steadily becoming a reality. Steve left everything to me, saying he had no idea and was too busy. When I needed a signature from the head of the household, he signed quickly as directed without even trying to read the contents. Although I was annoyed by his aloofness, he left me alone to do whatever and however I wanted. From the start of construction to the completion, everything went smoothly as I had imagined. Finally, the day of the handover arrived. On that day, Steve and Penny went to the real estate agency to get the new keys. I had to work, so I headed straight there after meeting with a client. When I arrived, they were already waiting in the front. Whoa, it's finally done! Our own home! My ideal house, amazing! I'm so happy! I ran up to them in excitement. It's true, it's a big, beautiful house. It's magnificent. I don't know how to thank you. Thank you for everything until now, Tracy. Penny happily mentioned. Until now? Do you mean the procedures? It was a lot of stress, but when I saw this house, all that was blown away. I exclaimed. Well, I'm sorry, but can you also blow away with the feelings? Excuse me? I just stood there not understanding what he meant. Hello? A woman came out of the car. She is the daughter of the president of my work. I want to marry her. Please divorce me. He said it like he was just canceling a date with me. I was at a loss for words when Penny spoke. So that's that. You're nothing compared to the boss' daughter. He's going to get a promotion in the company, so you should understand and back off. Oh, but the mortgage on the house is in your name, right? I will thank you for that. No way, you're kidding. So you knew it too, Penny? You two were in on it together. That's terrible. You've been home late. Was it because you were seeing this woman? How dare you? I was so confused by what was going on that I just blurted out whatever came to mind. The woman was outrageous too. It is what it is. I'm sorry. How could she take someone's husband and act nonchalantly? I thought someone would tell me it was a joke, but no one did. I eventually realized that everyone was dead serious, and my blood drained from my face. I was in tears of defeat, unable to step foot inside my new home, and left the place hearing their laughter. I spent 3 days and 3 nights crying, but my parents helped me regain my strength. I eventually went back to work and kept myself busy tackling the work that had piled up. Fortunately, I didn't have time to ponder about the calamity, but when it popped even a second into my mind, I felt great distress. I wasn't just going to cry myself to sleep. I didn't plan to forgive them so easily. Then I was offered a new project with the biggest paycheck ever. It was an opportunity for a fresh start. I fell behind Steve, who moved his stuff out first, but I moved into a beautiful luxury apartment. When my move was done and settled, I decided to start my revenge against him. Of course, I wanted to make Penny sorry too. A few days later, I met up with him at the coffee shop and told him that I wanted to settle everything and that I would sign the divorce papers. So, I want you to sign these divorce papers and also the property division and all that. Sign here and here. He signed as he was told without checking anything. When he was done, thank you. Please take care of the rest of the loan, I cheerfully mentioned. What are you talking about? The mortgage on that house is in your name, right? He smirked. Don't you remember this? I played a recording of me suggesting to get a joint loan while he was playing a game. What's this? I don't remember it. What's a joint loan? Even if he didn't remember, It was clearly on the recording. Besides, you signed the papers yourself. A joint loan is an agreement between a husband and a wife that they will pay the mortgage together. The documents that he signed without reading them also contain an application for the loan.
Am I supposed to pay for half of the loan? That's impossible.
I couldn't stand his attitude to still try to escape after all he had done. I'm sorry to hear that. You signed the papers just now, didn't you? After what happened, I consulted with the bank I borrowed from and my lawyer. We consolidated the loan into one in your name, since you will continue to live in the house. You are going to have to pay for everything.
What are you talking about? You can't do.
I could do it. My parents were out of the world furious. You know my father was a banker, right? His ex-subordinates hold high positions now. One of them took care of the loan stuff for me. He was the one who advised me on the joint loan. So I told him everything that had happened, and he told me how to transfer the mortgage to you. Steve's face grew paler by the second.
Wait, you didn't. Actually, I tried living with the boss's daughter, but things didn't work out. She's back at her parents' house right now. The president is angry with me. He said he was going to cancel my promotion. I'm not getting a raise, and if we don't reconcile, I won't be able to stay at the company.
I could care less. I was betrayed by him in front of me, a guy I had been with for years. Suck it up. You will get the loan documents in the mail later. You can take care of the rest. It's none of my business now.
Honey, don't say that. Help me.
He started crying in the cafe, and people around him were staring at him. He was about to say something, but I didn't want to hear anything else. I hoped he would be punished for treating me like a cash machine. After I walked a few steps away from the table, I realized that I forgot to leave money for the coffee and went back.
It's just a coffee. I will pay for it,
Steve mumbled. After all the talk about hundreds of thousands of dollars, it may not be a big deal. I just don't want to owe you even a penny. Tears welled up in his eyes again. A grown man crying in a coffee shop was a hideous sight. I quietly put the $10 bill on the table and left. A few months later, the house is up for sale. My father has been in contact with his ex-subordinate. I've heard that Steve fell behind on the payments after paying a certain amount from the sale of Penny's house. He resigned from his job, so I assume that the woman dumped him. I wonder what he's going to do with the rest of the loan until he finds a buyer. He has been unable to find a job and currently have no income. So he's living in a small apartment with Penny. She's working as a cleaner to make ends meet. As for me, my work is going well, and I'm busy but fulfilled every day. I'm increasingly being entrusted with web designers for major companies. I recently worked on a corporate website. The irony was that it was a page for a major real estate company's family home campaign. In any case, it is a joy to see my parents happy when they see what I have created. As my network of business contacts expands, I've met a guy who catches my attention. He is a hard-working competitor. I'm 35 years old now. I can start over however I want. It's up to the person to decide where life starts to get interesting.
What are you doing, you moron? Get the food out. Now! Are you trying to embarrass us? My husband shouted at me in the kitchen and went into the living room with a bottle of wine. I was hurriedly serving food on plates, fighting back tears. Then, someone came into the kitchen to replace my husband. Janelle, don't tell me you prepare all this by yourself. I replied to him, who was completely astonished by the situation. Yeah, that's what I always do. Hearing my words, he, my father-in-law, got angry. He was red in the face as he went to the living room.
Alec, what the hell are you doing? You stupid son.
My name is Janelle. I'm a 30-year-old office worker. My husband Alec and I have been married for 2 years.
Delicious. Janelle, you are a genius cook.
My husband always praised my homemade cooking. Seeing my husband eating my cooking always makes me happy. What kind of meal shall I cook tomorrow? On my next day off, I may try these new dishes. I used to cook a lot because I lived alone for a long time. But it wasn't until I got married that I began to cook elaborate meals like this. I think cooking skills will improve when there is someone to eat. My husband is not good at housework, so I do all the cleaning and laundry, including cooking. He never complains when I do the chores on my own time, which helps me a lot. And we go for a drive or shopping. My husband drives the car and carries my luggage like a gentleman. In this way, we can divide our roles as a couple. I think we have a very balanced life. However, a disturbing shadow has crept into our happy married life.
Dad's going away for a while.
Oh, really? For how long?
I think he said about a year. But he's out of the country. It's too far for him to come home easily.
I see. So your mother will be living alone during that time?
Yeah. Speaking of my mom, I have a proposal. How about we move into my parents with my mom?
You mean we live with your mom?
Yeah. I'm worried about her being alone, you know? And you would have less housework with my mom's help. I think it's not a bad idea. What do you think?
That's true. I think it's a good idea. Actually, I have just been selected as a team member for a big project at work. So, I was grateful for the reduced burden of housework. And I didn't have any bad impression with my mother-in-law. I thought it would be a great advantage for us to live together. I agreed to move in with her. But this was to be the biggest mistake of my life.
Hey, Janelle, how long are you going to stay in bed?
That's what my mother-in-law said, waking me up. I went to the living room with a sleepy head. It's only 5 in the morning. Why did you wake me up?
What are you talking about? You have to prepare our breakfast and lunch, and clean the bathroom and toilet. You have to be up by now.
Are you saying you want me to do all that in the morning?
Of course. That's what you're supposed to do as a wife.
My mother-in-law made such an unreasonable demand of me out of the blue. If I express my opinion, it will be reciprocated many times over. It would be mentally exhausting, so I had no choice but to comply. I had to finish all my chores before going to the office. I made breakfast and lunch for them. Then I would go to work exhausted. When I returned home extra exhausted, my mother-in-law orders me,
"You late! Make dinner now, you moron!"
She's always cursing me. This situation started the moment I moved in with her. I was very depressed. I couldn't concentrate on my work, living like this. I'm working on a big project that involves promotion. I couldn't take it anymore, so I talked to my husband about it. You said I would have less housework if we lived together. Instead of decreasing, it's increasing. When I said that, my husband looked annoyed.
What? If you don't like it, why don't you just leave it to my mom?
I tried and I can't. That's why I am asking you to do something about it.
Don't drag me into your problems. I'm busy with work, you know.
I am busy with work too.
What? You and I have different responsibilities. Women can take time off anytime, but men can't.
Yes, you can. What era are you living?
You're mocking me? Shut up. I don't want to talk to you anymore.
I didn't realize he was so old-fashioned. I thought he would be more flexible and understanding. I was quite disappointed that my husband was unreliable. My mother-in-law continues to behave in an unmanageable manner and treats me like a slave. I wonder if we can stay married in such a state. I even began to have such a fear. And my mother-in-law did not only tease me about my housework.
When will I see my grandchildren?
Our neighbor's daughter has already given birth.
I've got a baby gift for her, but I like to be on the receiving end of the baby gifts.
I'm sorry, but my husband and I are trying, you know?
What do you mean you're trying but you can't do it?
Doesn't that mean you were defective? I was surprised at my mother-in-law who made such a statement. What are you saying? Are you serious?
Because, you know, there is nothing wrong with my son. Then, it's all your fault, isn't it?
What a terrible judgment and accusation.
Does this person have no morals?
I had come to completely dislike my mother-in-law, and I was disillusioned with my husband, who was not helping me at all, even though I was in so much trouble. If anything more happened to me, we might not be staying together. That's what I thought. And it happened sooner than I thought.
Janelle, I'm throwing a birthday party for my mom this Saturday.
Birthday party? Saturday?
Yeah. We'll invite some of mom's friends. We need to treat them to some food and stuff. So, make sure you're ready.
Wait a minute. It's too sudden. You can't ask me to do something like that. I'll be back from my business trip on Friday, the night before.
Good. You'll be back in time. So it's perfect.
That's not what I mean. I'm gonna come home super tired from the business trip. Got it? And you're asking me to prepare for a birthday party the very next day?
What? Are you disobeying me? I'm your husband, you know. Damn it. Mom's right. You are useless. You can't even have a baby. And all you do is complain. Don't you ever think of taking good care of us?
Wait a minute. Do you have any idea how much I do for this family?
I don't need that kind of selfish remark. Well, if you say you can't do it because you are a loser, I don't blame you. Don't blame us for your inability to do anything.
What's with you? The way you say it.
Well, whatever. I get it. You want me to do it, right? How many people are coming to the party anyway?
How much food do we have to prepare?
I don't know. Maybe about 20 people? Including us.
Wait, 20? That many?
Don't complain now. You said you'll do it. Make sure you prepare the food properly.
My husband said that and went to his room. Shoot. I have no idea that so many people would come. I immediately regretted that I had agreed to do it out of anger. But I said I would do it, so I had to do it. My mother-in-law and my husband pissed me off. But the people who were invited were blameless. So I decided to prepare the food a little in advance. That way, I only have to heat it on the day of the party. That alone would take a lot off my plate. While I was preparing dinner, I made a few dishes that would last a while and put them in the fridge. Then, Thursday came and I went on a business trip. When I got home Friday night, I opened the fridge and exclaimed, "Hey, Alec, what happened to the dish that wasn't here?"
Well, we ate it all.
What? Seriously? That was for the party.
Oh, who knows?
I put a sign on the container saying it was for the party. See?
I don't remember that. It's too much trouble to cook. And it's easier to eat when there's something edible in the fridge.
My husband didn't seem offended. And my mother-in-law blamed me even more.
Don't be stupid, Janelle.
Were you thinking to serve leftover food at a birthday party? We are having guests over, so make it on the day of the party. But I haven't even gone shopping yet.
Then why don't you go tomorrow morning?
Even elementary school kids could understand that. An elementary school student wouldn't understand how hard it is to buy ingredients and cook for 20 people the morning after a tiring business trip, for God's sake. I wanted to say that back to them, but I was mentally and physically exhausted. So I decided to go to bed as soon as possible to recover from the fatigue. I woke up very early the next morning. Of course, neither my husband nor my mother-in-law helped me with anything. I ended up going back and forth between the supermarket and home 3 times. It took me about 2 hours just to do the shopping. And then I had to rush to start preparing the food for the party. I whipped my body, exhausted from the business trip, into shape and proceeded with the cooking. But of course, since I was doing it alone, it was going to take a long time. And since I was more tired than usual, my pace was even slower. I managed to roughly prepare the food, but it was already past dusk before I could finish the serving and other finishing touches. Guests arrived one after another. My mother-in-law greets the guests in the living room with a smile. When she came to the kitchen in between, she glared at me and shouted abusive words at me.
Hey, Janelle, how damn are you? The guests are already here. So hurry up.
If you have time to get mad like that, at least help with the last dish. I can't help thinking. But my mother-in-law just complains and goes back to the living room. And not only my mother-in-law, but also my husband came into the kitchen and yelled at me.
What are you doing, you moron? Get the food out, now. Are you trying to embarrass us?
I couldn't stand by and let him call me moron.
What's with you? Really?
I'm tired from a business trip and went out shopping for groceries and booze all by myself. And I'm cooking for 20 people all by myself.
I don't need you to tell me I'm a moron. How dare you? What? You said you could do it, so I let you do it. If you can't, you should have said you couldn't. You useless piece of shit. I should have never married a bitch like you.
He cursed me in the kitchen and went into the living room with a bottle of wine. How could he say such a thing? I deeply regret marrying an abusive husband like him. I was hurriedly serving food on plates. fighting back tears. Then, someone came into the kitchen to replace my husband. It was my father-in-law. Oh, hi. Long time no see. I didn't know you were home.
Yes, I just came in. What's more? What's going on? I heard Alec yelling at you. Are you okay? I came straight to the kitchen right after I dropped my stuff off.
I'm sorry. Did you hear our fighting in the living room?
Well, I don't know. I haven't been over there yet.
My father-in-law froze mid-sentence when he saw the dishes laid out in the kitchen.
Janelle? Don't you tell me you prepared all this by yourself.
Yes. It's ready when I served them on the plates.
No one else helped you?
I nodded silently at my father-in-law's words.
No way. This is...
I replied to him, who was completely astonished by the situation. But that's what I always do.
What do you mean by always?
I decided to take this opportunity to tell my father-in-law the whole story. About my mother-in-law's bullying, my husband's not taking my side at all. I told him about all the things that had happened since I moved in with my mother-in-law. When my father-in-law heard what I said, his face turned red and he went to the living room. I hurriedly followed behind him. My mother-in-law's face lit up when she noticed my father-in-law's appearance. Oh my God, honey, you're here! Ladies and gentlemen, this is my husband. He came all the way home today to celebrate my birthday. My mother-in-law smiled and introduced her husband to everyone. The guests noticed that my father-in-law had a scarily look on his face, so they kept silent. Then, my father-in-law approached my mother-in-law and questioned her.
Is it true that you were using Janelle?
My mother-in-law was in a panic.
Hey,
what's the matter with you?
Use her? I would never do such a thing.
You know that.
Then why is Janelle preparing the food for this huge banquet all by herself? According to what I heard, Janelle came back from her business trip last night. But this morning, she went to the store to buy all the food and drinks by herself, and she's been cooking all day. If this isn't using her for your convenience, what is it?
It's... My mother-in-law became upset when my father-in-law questioned her. Then, my husband rushed in to stop my father-in-law. Dad, stop it! You're embarrassing us in front of the guests. My husband said so. But to be honest, he was the one who should be embarrassed. And my father-in-law felt the same way.
How dare you can say anything here? Your first priority should be your wife, shouldn't it? Why can't you help Janelle when she is being bullied? Because it's their problem. It's none of my business. None of your business? What the hell are you doing? I can't believe you are my son. Janelle chose you to marry and became a part of this family. I feel sorry for her, that her husband is a worthless man like you. What? You don't have to say that. Besides, our marriage is going well. Right, Janelle? Right? We fight sometimes, but we get along.
I was disgusted by my husband saying such a thing. You say that because you are embarrassed to be blamed here. If you think we get along, or that things are going well, then you are just insane.
I've talked to you repeatedly about your mother's bullying, and you've never taken my side, never done anything with it. And you put me in charge of all the preparations for today's party. You blame me to the point of insanity when things don't go as planned. How can anyone stay married to such a man? I can't. I don't want to see your face or your mother's face ever again. Let's get a divorce. As I said this, my father-in-law continued. You betrayed your wife. You must agree to this divorce, son. I am totally ashamed that this happened while I was away. I've reached my limit. I'm also divorcing you. To my surprise, my father-in-law also gave my mother-in-law a divorce on the spot. What? No way. No. Please, don't do this. You're not interested in me. You are only interested in how much money I make. I won't tolerate it anymore. Get the hell out of my house. For those of you who've gathered here, you're going to eat the food Janelle cooked. She worked so hard on it. It's not a birthday party anymore, but a dinner party. If you two are here, the food will not as good as it could be. Get out of here. Now. Both my husband and my mother-in-law were shaken up by my father-in-law's anger and rushed out of the house. After that, I finished preparing the food and served it to the people who had gathered there. Everyone praised my cooking, saying it was delicious. I felt like my hard work was rewarded just by that alone. After the guests left, my father-in-law and I went to the city office to prepare for divorce. After a while, my husband and mother-in-law came home looking all frightened. When we confronted them with the divorce application, they burst into tears and clung to us. But our resolve is now unwavering. Plus, I had physical evidence. When my mother-in-law and my husband started abusing me in the kitchen, one of the relatives who were at the party saw us. He felt sorry for me and recorded what my mother-in-law and my husband said. I got the audio data and decided to use it to demand for alimony. He didn't think I had such evidence, so he gave up and gave in to my demands. He realized that it would cost him more money to go to court. Thus, my father-in-law and I were able to divorce each other's lousy partners. And I was able to get my husband to pay me alimony. My ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law are now living together. But after the party, their relatives and friends found out how badly they've treated me, and they were completely isolated from the family. Well, it's none of my business anymore. I think they deserve it. Meanwhile, I am living a comfortable single life by myself in a nice apartment near the office. The project was a success, and I got a promotion. I am going to devote myself to my work for a while.